Hey, hi, hello. I need to talk about Funny Pets. Have you seen this show, Funny Pets? That's a trick question because nobody has. This show exists exclusively as a footnote to the Poppee the Performer universe, but I can't stand for that because I watched this show a long time ago and I have shown it to so many people. And they have all questioned my sanity, and I need to show this to you. This is one of my favorite shows of all time. I'm not even joking. My taste is really bad. So I need someone to hear about this show because I feel like I'm going crazy. Maybe I am a little crazy. This show is nightmare fuel. It is great. It is fantastic television. I don't even know why it exists, but I need to talk about it in some capacity. So you're gonna sit here and you're gonna listen. As I mentioned, this is made by the same guy who made Poppee the Performer. If you don't know what Poppee the Performer is, that's a video for another time. Go check it out. It is also a trip into hell, honestly. The best way that I can describe Funny Pets, though, is like an extended purgatory, an instruction manual for children to become psychopaths when they grow up. That's the best way I can describe this shit. Let me read off the synopsis on the Poppee the Performer fan and wiki. Funny Pets is a 3D CG anime created and directed by Ryuji Masuda that aired through 2006. The plot is that two aliens, the crescent-headed Crescent and the sun-headed Corona, crash on Earth. They're taken in by the air-headed showgirl girl Funny, who makes them her pets. Each episode averages about 7 minutes in length, and there are 24 episodes in total. I'm only going to talk about 7 episodes because I don't have that much time today. Honestly, I feel like if I talk about the entire series, we'll be here a while, because I will have a lot to say. And in just 7 episodes, there's going to be a lot to unpack. And I feel like you should just watch this show. And I made it 7 specifically because the 7th episode is my favorite of all time, honestly, and I show this to everyone. You'll see what I mean. So the show revolves around 3 main characters, as I mentioned. There's the sun, there's the moon, and there's Funny. Here's what you need to know about these 3 characters. First of all, the sun, also known as Corona, he's just a baby. That's basically his entire personality. He's just a baby. Then we got Crescent, who's the moon. We'll talk about him later. And then we got Funny. I don't really know what there is to say about Funny, okay? Might I remind you that this is a children's programming. This is for kids. This aired on children's television. None of these characters speak really, they just kind of emote. So the main character is Crescent, and what's particularly interesting about Crescent is that he's a full-blooded sociopath. I'm not even joking. This is his entire characterization. We got Crescent, the sociopath, we got Corona, the baby, and we got Funny, the bimbo showgirl. So without further ado, let me walk you through the first 7 episodes, because they're a journey. Episode 1 is a great introduction to the 3 characters and their dynamic. We start out with Funny feeding Corona like this. Great start. While Crescent is literally slaughtering ants with a laser pointer flamethrower thing, he sets fire to their driveway and laughs maniacally as these ants are immolated in front of him. The sun tempts the moon away from sinning by giving him his pot of candy. However, in his hubris, the moon ends up spilling the entire pot of molten sugar all over himself and then sets himself on fire by accident. And much like the scene in Berserk where Guts is forced to watch his lover get defiled by his former best friend, he watches as the ants form a giant smiley face and consume his sugar right before his eyes as he burns to death on their front driveway. And then we cut to the end credits, and guess what? The end credits slap, okay? That might sound like a crazy introduction to a series, but honestly, it's pretty on brand. Episode 2 is called Hunting, and it's even wilder than the first episode where the main character burns to death, okay? The sun and moon are neglected and starving as their master can't stay awake long enough to feed them. But then they see a mask on the wall and have an extended collective vision. Now, if you've seen Poppee the Performer, the mask kind of apparates like that one character, what's his name? Kademono. Yeah. Where the mask kind of falls off every time he needs to do a new emotion. Yeah. The sun and moon see a family of gophers and decide to hunt them with a bow and arrow. But the gophers parkour away from them by riding on top of the arrows into the sunset. Crazy. The sun trips and falls to the ground, and the moon literally shoots him in the back of the head, and he fucking dies. And he fucking dies, and I know this because at the end of the episode, they show their gravestones, okay? So Crescent runs to Funny to alert her that the baby fucking died. The son fucking died in their backyard, and she slaps him across the room, but the moon manages to coax her outside and gives her a bow and arrow right in front of, mind you, the corpse of the son that he just shot and is dead in their backyard. And Funny is half asleep, and she's pointing this bow and arrow at him, and Crescent is shaking his extraordinarily bony ass at her. And so she shoots the arrow at him, and he manages to parkour on top of this arrow and fly away. But then, disaster strikes, because she shoots again, because she's in a sleepless little stupor. She shoots him right and penetrates his butthole. And he flies away into the sunset and fucking dies. And then she puts dinner on both of their gravestones. And then the gophers consume the dinner. So they can't even be happy in the afterlife. Jesus Christ. The next episode is called Cabbage, and honestly this one's kind of boring, with a couple of notable exceptions in the episode, which we'll talk about. So basically the family gets the idea that if they draw a face on a cabbage, they can raise it as a baby. So they draw a little smiley face on a cabbage and try to give it milk, and Funny does this. And then the moon does this. I can tell why this episode was made. You guys are sick. The moon gets super jealous of this cabbage baby, and the sun gets super scared of it, so they throw the cabbage outside, and then a bunch of gophers, the gophers from earlier, try to eat this cabbage baby, and then the sun sees this and gets so upset that he sets them on fire. He sets them on fire. Are you noticing a trend here? And while they're mourning over the corpse of this cabbage, Funny decides to draw a little smiley face on the half-eaten cabbage, and it forms like a little moon. And honestly, that's pretty cute. That's relatively cute for this series, okay? Except for the, moving on. Episode 4 is called Black Hole. So there's a black hole has formed in the sun's mouth, which appears above their house. And Funny, despite having no medical training or a dental license or anything, decides to operate on the sun, not knowing that the black hole is right outside of their house. So when she puts the scalpel to the black hole, it ends up appearing massively outside of their house in their backyard. The moon witnesses all of this, and he's like, what the hell? Oh my God. And he sees Funny putting a buzzsaw in the sun's mouth, none the wiser to the disaster that is about to unfold here. So the moon's like, oh shit. And he jumps into the sun's mouth, #vor, because he's trying to save their home from getting literally cut in half. And the moon ends up landing outside, and now he's massive. He's gigantic. All of the food that the sun has consumed over the past day just rains down around them, and it's all massive. And then here comes the buzzsaw, which cuts the moon and the entire Earth in half, causing the destruction and the end of the universe as we know it. Cool. This scene is actually kind of brutal. Let's just move on. Episode 5 is called Ghost. So the moon's eating some apples by a tree, and he literally fucking chokes to death. Like, in the first 30 seconds of the episode, he literally chokes to death, and his ghost comes out, and he tries to alert the entire family as to what happened, but they all end up ignoring him, to the point where Funny even steps by his corpse, directly sees his corpse, doesn't give a shit, but then drags his corpse back inside, tries to get him to eat, keeps shoveling food into his gaping maw, and it gets upset that the moon is not eating. So she fucking spanks him so hard that the piece of apple comes out, And he starts laughing because he's just been brought back to life and he's so glad. But then Funny just keeps spanking him because now she's angrier because he's laughing. I don't know what the moral of that story is, honestly. Episode 6 is pretty boring by Funny Pet standards. I'm just gonna read the plot synopsis that I have here. The moon gets punted into space by a whale in a picture book, stabbed in the face by a seahorse, gets penetrated by another seahorse, gets jealous of the picture book whale and tries to stab him, is consumed by madness and injures himself, then winds up inside of the book. This was all a ploy because I wanted to talk about episode 7. Episode 7, as I mentioned, is my favorite episode. This is the episode that I show people when I want to talk about funny pets. So the whole family takes a road trip to see a rainbow, and they're driving in this top-down convertible, okay? But the moon sees something peculiar rising up above the horizon. He thinks he's going crazy, so he hauls ass and he turns around. But that thing keeps haunting him in the rearview mirror, and he sees a large rainbow eyeball. As he speeds away, Funny is launched out of the back of the convertible, just into the dirt. Crescent tries to spin the car around to rescue her, but ends up getting into a car crash and landing on railroad tracks. Keep in mind, the sun is still in the car, but Crescent doesn't notice. He just runs out of the car because he's running towards that rainbow. He's running towards Funny, but the sun is still in the car. And a train comes by and crashes directly into the sun. So the sun fucking dies. Like right away, instantly fucking dies in the episode. But Funny isn't dead. Crescent, however, suffers the worst fate of any of the episodes, okay? He's going completely freaking insane here. So he decides to rip out one of his bloodshot eyes and hold it over his shoulder to see if he can see this rainbow expand behind him. And when that doesn't work, he rips out his other eye in frustration and throws both of them at the rainbow, and then stumbles forward blindly and steps on and shatters his eyes. And I want to take a moment to talk about the final shot of this, okay? Funny looks up and she sees Crescent stumbling blindly over the arc of the rainbow as it ascends and reveals a giant sky Buddha that has been there this entire time. I'm going to stop here because I want to incentivize you to watch the whole series because there are even wilder episodes here that I have not talked about. Let me know if you want me to talk more about this sort of thing. I can also talk about Poppee the Performer. I can also talk about other obscure animated things that I love. I have even more obscure animated loves. All right, I'm going to go. Bye-bye.